What were your thoughts when you first arrived to the crime scene?
It was not a quick death. She lived for quite some time trying to fend off her attacker.
It was a very, very violent act on this individual, and there's a lot of rage to do that to another human being.
Was it possible that Tiara's killer could have been a family member?
Everybody's a suspect until you can eliminate them definitively.
She had been conversating with an individual on Craigslist. She had posted that she was single and was looking to meet somebody new.
What did you find out regarding the husband?
There were some domestic issues between the two of them.
Was it your belief that he just wanted to kill another human being that day?
He was seeking someone out.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Expose takes us to Jacksonville, Florida. It is the most crowded city in the state, with nearly 1 million people, which translates into a large dating pool. Online dating can be exhilarating, but can also be very dangerous. And in the case of Tiara Poole, it led to her murder. Tiara Poole was a 22-year-old mother of 2 boys. She hadn't been seen in public for 4 days. Curious and a bit worried, her best friend decided to pay a visit to her apartment.
She had her own key to the apartment because she was the nanny to her children. So she used her key, she entered the apartment. She went to the bedroom where she saw just the hand of Mrs. Poole, a bloody hand. And when she saw that bloody hand, she decided that she'd back out of the apartment and call the police.
Officers were dispatched to the address, and when they arrived, they found the victim deceased on the floor.
The floor was soaked in blood, the body chopped with a sharp object. Tiara had been stabbed nearly 90 times. It was pure butchery. The killer wanted to make absolutely sure that Tiara would never breathe again.
She had several wounds, the slit that went across her throat from side to side, and then she had several puncture wounds that were from the back to her lung. All of them could have been fatal.
Tiara fought back as the killer slashed at her, the escalating number of wounds slowly draining the life out of her. She held on as long as she could.
She did have defensive wounds on her forearms. It was not a quick death. She lived for quite some time trying to defend off her attacker.
What were your thoughts when you first arrived to the crime scene?
With 80-something stab wounds to the body, it was a very, very violent act on this individual, and there's a lot of rage to do that to another human being.
And also in situations like this where you do see intense emotion involved, a lot of times it's somebody that the victim knew. So was it possible that Tiara's killer could have been a family member or a close friend?
Sure, usually you would think that it would be some type of personal connection to the individual or to the suspect who did this to the victim.
As law enforcement scrutinized the crime scene, several things stood out. First, the murder weapon, a knife from Tiara's own kitchen.
It was found in the bathroom. I think it was leaning up against the tub. It was bent, so if you think about the integrity of a kitchen knife, and for it to be bent, it would have to be struck pretty hard. And the tip of it was broken off, and then the tip was actually located within Ms. Poole's body.
2, the killer did not break into the apartment.
There was no signs of forced entry, which would also lend an investigator to believe that they knew the individual who committed the crime or just allowed them to come into the home.
3, as Tiara Poole lay bleeding, the murderer helped himself to her personal belongings.
In the process of going over the crime scene, they discovered her game station was removed from her house and some other items.
So who was this young woman?
Whenever you enter into a homicide scene, there's a lot of mitigating factors that come into play. Do they have a history of domestic violence? Is there a history of drug use? Is there a history of drug dealing? Is there family issues?
Police say Tiara lived in a neighborhood where this kind of thing just didn't happen.
Her apartment complex where she was killed is, it's a nice, good neighborhood. It's a good area.
So we do know that Tiara was married. What else did you discover about her home life?
I know that the victim had 2 small children and they were with in-laws and not present in the home when this crime took place.
Meanwhile, though he snatched a few of Tiara's personal items, the killer did not grab her cell phone on his way out the door.
Her phone was resting on the back of the couch in the crime scene.
Were you able to get any information off of Tiara's phone that helped in the investigation?
It had to be submitted to a company to do a forensic download and to kind of separate all the information that was on that particular phone, whether there were text, phone calls, and internet usage on the phone and how the phone was being used on the internet.
I know one of the things police use the information they found on the phone for is to kind of build a biography of a person's final days. Were you able to do that for Tiara?
They were able to gain a lot of insight into what's going on in Tiara's life, and she was communicating with others through Craigslist on both her computer and phone.
Was Tiara talking to family, friends, or strangers? For this married mother of 2, nothing appeared to be what it seemed. In fact, Tiara Poole had a shadowy second life, one that took her down a treacherous path. Stabbed 90 times and left to die, Tiara Poole spent 4 long days out of the public eye before her best friend stumbled across her body. For Tiara, life was over at the age of 22. Based on the way she was killed, police say the murderer was probably someone close to her.
Whenever you have a stabbing, generally those are what a homicide investigator would determine as a personal attack. There's some kind of personal agenda there, whether it's self-fulfilling or if it's a domestic situation or, someone's angry for whatever reason.
Speaking of domestic situations, where was Tiara's husband during all this? Police say he certainly seemed like a strong candidate. What did you find out regarding the husband and his whereabouts?
So Tiara's husband was in the military. He was in the Navy. He was on an 8-month deployment at the time of the incident. Though investigators didn't know that from the early onset, so they'll get in contact with his command staff to see, if he's been on deployment or did he take leave, did he return home.
In the military, taking leave involves requesting to be absent from work. So investigators wanted to know if Tiara's husband had returned home briefly and possibly killed her during that time frame.
Not only do they have to figure out that he's on deployment, but they also make sure that he didn't return off of deployment for whatever reason. And so you have to kind of eliminate that as a factor.
As detectives peeled back the layers of Tiara Poole's daily life, they learned that her marriage had recently run aground.
There were some domestic issues between the 2 of them to the level of violence, or it was just verbal altercations between them, but they were contemplating separation and divorce.
With her current relationship grinding to a halt, Tiara decided to find a new man, temporary or otherwise.
Through the computer check, they learned that she had been on Craigslist and had been conversating with an individual on Craigslist.
The Craigslist website was launched during the early days of the internet. It's an online version of the old classified sections in newspapers where people bought and sold items, looked for a place to rent, and even advertised for new romance. So what kind of ad was it that Tiara posted on Craigslist?
In her ad that she had posted through Craigslist, she had posted that she was single and was looking to meet somebody new and start making some changes.
Police dug through all of the messages on Tiara's phone and computer.
You're looking at everyone that she was having conversations with.
But it was the Craigslist ad that interested them the most.
A few people replied to her ad, but then she kind of narrowed it down to one particular individual. His name was David Kelsey Spark.
David Spar lived in Georgia, a little over an hour's drive from Tiara's place in Jacksonville.
I was aware that they did have communications back and forth. It was flirtatious in nature, and there was some conversation as to meeting here in Jacksonville.
Meanwhile, another key piece of evidence popped up. Someone had left a DNA specimen in Tiara's apartment.
They found some unknown male DNA at the scene, and they're going to do everything in their power and use the techniques that are used today to determine who that individual is.
The pieces of this puzzle were increasing in number, but nothing was fitting together just yet. Investigators knew the murderer could be halfway across the country by now.
The cliche of you have 48 hours to get to an answer is really not so cliche. Things start falling off the radar as time goes by. People start forgetting. You might have a witness that saw something and just assumed that the police knew it or never called them about it, so it wasn't important to them.
So who brutally murdered Tiara Poole and disappeared into the night? Was it her husband, the man from Craigslist, or whoever owned the traces of DNA that were spattered across her apartment? The sun is setting on the city of Jacksonville, Florida, and time is running out as police pursue Tiara Poole's killer. If the investigation takes too long, it'll end up as a cold case, and it might stay open forever.
People get scared, they don't want to say anything, they don't want to tell on somebody, or there's a whole host of different reasons.
Time to examine the list of suspects. The husband is always at the top of the list, but Tiara's husband was a member of the United States Navy, and at the time of the murder, he was out of town.
The investigators learned that he was deployed, he was nowhere near, he was on a ship, and was no way in shape or form could have committed this crime.
If not Tiara's husband, then who? Back to the list of potential lovers she was chatting with on her phone and computer. At the top of that list, the man from Georgia, David Spar.
There was multiple persons of interest. It just turns out that Spar made it a little bit more easier because he was interacting much more often than anyone else was.
They learned through their text messaging and messaging back and forth on Craigslist that they had made arrangements to meet up with each other.
And you brought in David Spar for questioning, and you said that he was cooperative, right?
Correct. When interviewed by the investigators, he admitted that that he had come down to Jacksonville to meet her and made arrangements, and he was coming down here anyway to visit his grandmother who was having a procedure done at a local hospital.
And were you able to verify his statement?
They're actually seen on videotape at the hospital.
So at the hospital, they were face to face for the first time. There was enough of a spark, and then what happened?
He admitted that they had met up and gone back to her place to be intimate with one another.
And then afterward?
He said he'd come for one thing and one thing only. They did their business and then he left.
Investigators had no reason to doubt the story that David Spar told them.
So far up until that point, what they got from his story and then the video footage that they received from the hospital, everything was, at that point, was matching up.
Then, the police slowly turned the tables on David Spar, and this friendly interview started to go south. Investigators poked holes in Spar's responses, beginning with his phone conversations with Tiara Poole.
So they had the video, they had his cell phone records. He tries to say that he's in a separate location when he has a conversation with her, but yet his cell phone records are actually placing him at a different location. And there is a discrepancy that he has to answer for, and he can't, of course.
And then you said he began to sweat and stumble, and then you asked him for something crucial.
Yeah, and so they asked him for his DNA, and that's when things changed for him and the investigation took a different turn.
The DNA found near Tiara's body was tested against a sample from David Spar, and there was no doubt that the two samples were from the same person. And now, David Spar had to answer for what he had done while he was in Tiara Poole's apartment.
His DNA is found within the crime scene, and it's on the weapon. It's in, I think they They might have recovered some from the grout and the tile in the bathroom, and try to explain that one away.
Even so, Spar tried to wriggle away from this. He said he couldn't remember anything, so he couldn't have repeatedly slashed Tiara with a knife.
There's one point where he says, well, I think I just blacked out. I've heard that time and time again in interviews of suspects. They give you specific details leading all the way up to the point of the crime occurring, that all of a sudden they blacked out and they just want to jump over the portion where you're talking about the actual murder taking place, the 90 stab wounds.
So his story is that he met her at the hospital, drove to her place, had sex, and then he couldn't remember anything after that.
He says, I just blacked out and I don't remember what happened. Next thing you know, I was in my car driving away. Well, no, because then you remember all the details after that as well.
Spar was drowning, but things got worse. He had to explain the items missing from the apartment. Tiara's gaming system and her car had disappeared the day she was executed, and now investigators nailed Spar to the wall.
They tied him to the scene with the surveillance footage and her car being stolen, and then his DNA being in her apartment.
It was Judgment Day for David Spar, and this time there was no way to escape from what he had done. The judge dropped the hammer on him.
David Spar was ultimately sentenced to death.
Spar's excuse for killing Tiara? He said he lost his mind when Tiara told him that she was still married.
He wanted this to happen. You just don't go to that level of violence on an individual because you find out they're married and you're trying to start a relationship with them up, or even just have a fling with them.
So is it your belief that he just wanted to kill another human being that day?
It was, for lack of a better term, it was premeditated. He was seeking someone out.
David Spar had taken more from Tiara Poole than her life and dreams and hope for a better future. He had ripped her away from her husband, her friends, and her children.
Her loss of life is so tragic, but also there's 2 other lives and these 2 other children who are now without their mother. And it puts a different burden on them that people just cannot imagine.
The heartbreaking story of Tiara Poole ends here, but every day people send texts, make phone calls, schedule dates, all in the hope that at some point they'll feel the spark of romance they seek, whether for now or forever. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. Looking to make a romantic connection online is common nowadays, but prioritizing your safety while doing so is essential. For the first several dates, choose public places and avoid going to secluded locations or your residence. Have access to your own car or public transportation so that you're able to come and go freely. And if you're going to drink, order your own and be careful of how much you consume so that you are well aware of what is happening. And finally, it's probably a good idea to tell a friend or family member where you are going and follow up with them periodically to let them know you're okay. Know the risks and take the proper precautions. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For everybody here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.